Last week we just basically covered, like, in this, my exhaustive analysis of branding, talking about just the basics of it. I gave everybody homework, which is why nobody came back. So that's great. But do you have any explicit experience or interest in branding? Because we can go over that and just touch base on some of that real quick for you. Or I can give you the keynote as well at the end. I don't know if you had any specific questions or goals for the class. Last time I had everybody introduce themselves and like what they were trying to get out of the workshop.
I don't necessarily have any experience with branding. I have a film background, so actually I think
Great, me too. I work in film a lot.
Cool. So yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, just trying to explore the
Sure. Personal enrichment, all these things. In what capacity have you worked in film?
Well, I'm more in like the business side of things.
Okay.
Like the agency stuff.
Sure.
That stuff.
What kind of agency?
Boutique agency.
Boutique, like production companies or representation? Like what?
Talent representation.
Talent representation. Okay. I asked because it could vastly change your lens. Cool.
Totally.
Great. What's up, man? How are you?
Hi.
I don't recognize you. Were you here last week?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, what's your name?
Bruno.
Birdo?
Bruno.
Bruno. Pardon me. Leslie, how are you?
Hi.
Where are you from, Bruno?
Uruguay.
One more time?
Uruguay.
Okay, Uruguay. Great. I have not been, but I hear it's beautiful. Bruno, at the head of last class, and I was just talking to Allison about this because she didn't come through first class either. I asked everybody, thank you so much, where they're from and what sort of angle or ambition they have with the workshop in terms of branding, what they were looking for. So you told me you're from Uruguay, which is great. So what's your angle? What's your angle, Bruno?
For brand building?
Yeah, for branding marketing, like what we're talking about here.
I guess.
You don't have to have one if it's okay. But.
I'm interested in graphic design, Instagram stuff.
Graphic design, Instagram. Okay, great. So just sort of like came to like personal enrichment sort of stuff.
Visual stuff.
Visual stuff. Got it. Okay. Well, last week I gave a very long-winded and vainglorious presentation for 2 hours. I think everybody who's last week can attest to that. But what I want to do this week, and I can go over some basics of that and or give you guys that keynote presentation so you can kind of get some context, maybe do a little recap today if anybody has any questions or anything. But I gave everybody homework, which I already made this joke, but it's new to you, so hopefully this will find it funny. That's why they're not here. But I wanted to look at some of the stuff that people came up with, be it a mood board, a concept, some actual branding, a website, something like that. So what we can do is we can look at everybody's work and we can debate, discuss it, and then we can talk specifically to you guys and how we can help you create a brand as well, based on what we talked about last week, and or I can do a little rehash. Does that sound fair? Okay, cool. Well, welcome. Okay, so I got everybody's work in some capacity or another, right, in some form. Let's see what we got here. So everybody knows my email address, everything great. For you two, that's my contact information. If you have any questions based upon some of the stuff I'll be talking about today. It's like, how do you sleep at night? Very well, thank you. Okay, so let's look at some of the stuff that we've been able to pull together. Let's go first to email. It's my chat with my brother about my birthday present, which I want a very cool wallet. Okay, let's reload this. And let's see. Who's first here? Yossi. Nika Rosbaum.
So, just a note,
talk, spiel.
I have never used Illustrator before. I never even opened the app, so the second picture is what I want to really look at.
Got it.
My friend wanted me to make him a business card. He does spoken word and stuff like that, and that's what I made, but I don't know how to use Illustrator that well. So.
I will say that Illustrator is amongst the Creative Cloud applications one of the more difficult ones to learn.
Yeah.
I'd say that and After Effects are probably the most sort of sheer monolithic wall of I don't know how to do thisness.
But feedback is good because this is an actual business card for a friend.
So this is the back, the obverse, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that was actually the front.
Oh, that's
yeah,
I guess what tomato, right?
Yeah.
Potato.
That's the logo on the other side. I
Okay,
know it's
that's
kind of plain on the other side. I wasn't sure what to do with that yet.
It's okay. This is his logo.
Yeah, that's his logo.
River City Poetry.
Yeah.
That's a cool little logo. That's fine. So something we talked about last week, guys, was a lot of discussions about visual narrative and intentionality. Remind me, what else did we talk about? I can look it up. Intentionality in terms of typeface, color choice, layout, design, and how to tell a story, visually speaking. Visual narrative, visual communication. Basically, visual stuff, graphic design. We can rehash it. So let's take a look at these two images. Let me try and bring these two together so we can see them in context of each other. I think I can do that. What is going on here? What is this? Oh, it's locked. Can we make another artboard? I wonder if I can just take this entire artboard. Can I copy and paste that? No. That is something else. Well, let's do this then. Let's get one. Do a screen grab. This might be the fastest way of doing it. Over here. Place that. Drag that screen grab into here. Oh, this is locked as well. Well, that won't work. That won't. Let's make these about the same size. Looks pretty good. Okay, so here we have some branding for Samuel Hawkins. Of River City Poetry. Now, without knowing too much about him other than what we just heard, what does this branding say about this brand slash person? What can we know? I'm literally on the same side as you guys because I haven't seen this before. So let's talk about it. What can we deduce from Sam Hawkins? Who is he? What does he do? How can we tell?
He's a poet.
Okay, yeah, sure. It says he's a poet. He's a River City poet. I'm not sure what that means, but he's a River City poet. Anything else?
The logo on the front, it's like, makes me think of lightning bolts.
Lightning bolts? Okay.
Edgy.
Edgy, sure. I would say like street art.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like hip hop, street art, urban,
Probably does a lot of underground stuff.
codified language. Okay, that's interesting that you say that. We have no reason to think that other than a culturated meaning in codified language, right? Why do we think he does underground stuff?
I don't know, just the way it's designed. The fact that I've never heard of River City poetry, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just making.
No, it's fine. No, but this is all valid because this speaks to the sort of substrata of codified language and meaning that exists within things like branding and marketing, right? Because we don't say it explicitly. We draw, as we talked about last week, upon tropes, archetypes, assumptions. It's visual there, right? Because you can look at an image that doesn't have a fucking word in it, but it tells you everything. Right? That's what we talked about mostly last week. Anyway, so she says underground. I feel like, okay, I react to that. I feel like this is kind of like codified language, and it's playing off some weird sort of like, it's some like racial like assumptions there. River City Poetry, it's got this sort of like hip hop, street art inspired. Is it working?
I don't know. I'm just checking.
Yes, please do. Street art, sort of, street art looking typeface, and we have this edgy silhouette, and so maybe we're saying, well, underground, seeing a lot of smoky basement coffee houses and wherever people do poetry. I don't know, I'm not really a big poetry fan, I don't go out and see these things, but I'm assuming that this, maybe that's right, maybe that's not right, but I get that from there. Sure. What else?
Reminds me of shadows.
Shadows, sure, because of the silhouette. Sort of, yeah, I think
It's
that.
like the dark. I don't know. It's just black and white.
Just by, yeah, literally. Ooh, that's interesting, isn't it? Not just Michael Jackson album. Okay.
I was gonna say it definitely adds a level of intrigue because it's not like hitting me on the head with what this person actually is or does. However, you can kind of see him, you kind of can't. Don't know what he looks like, but you kind of know that what he does involves a microphone. He's some kind of performer, so there's this level of intrigue and who is this?
Sure, it's some mystery, right? Yes, he's very much like a graphic flat image. I think that spell is dispelled a little bit by poetry because you may say, okay, these poses are poetic too. I'm not doing poetry. I feel like I can tell that he might be African American just from his silhouette. I can't assume that, but I'm guessing. I'm getting all Samuel Hawkins at live.com, so hackers.com. I would say that this is a very minimal, but telling design in terms of branding. I personally, how do you guys feel about the silhouette? Do you guys think it makes it stronger or weaker? What about if it wasn't a silhouette? What about if it's just his logo? Or just type? Or maybe a slogan and not the silhouette? What would happen to that?
Doesn't really say anything. I think
It doesn't say anything, you think? Tell me why it doesn't say anything to you.
just because if it didn't have a silhouette, it wouldn't say anything. Just because even though it's a silhouette, it's still like a personification in a way. It's just like you're showing that there's a person behind that kind of logo. And I don't know. It speaks to him rather than.
If we were to do something like this. Okay, let's rasterize. Try to put this in line. I see that you flatten this text. Oh my god. Really making me work for it. Now, I think part of it too is like this vertical alignment as opposed to the horizontal, more traditional horizontal that's eye-grabbing, the starkness is eye-grabbing. Is this a better or worse piece of branding?
Without the silhouette.
Yeah.
I think it's not very good branding. I wouldn't say
Mhm.
that it's worse, but just it's not very good because it's quite forgettable. It's not really
Quite
that difficult to put text on white screen. The silhouette definitely gives it character, individuality, and makes it memorable.
Okay, I agree with you. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Now that we've pulled it apart in front of you, I think this is fairly effective. I think that especially for a first venture out to Adobe Illustrator, it's impressive. Good job. It looks good. It looks clean. I think going black and white, you can't go wrong with simplicity. But go ahead. Why don't you tell us about it a little bit?
What about it? Like, should I don't know.
Well, I mean, why did you choose to do this? Who is the person? What is their brand? And why did you choose to represent it in this way?
Let me think. Well, I've known him for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Kentucky, so he's from Kentucky. That's why y'all have never heard of the brand or anything. I feel like he's a really cool person and interesting, and I don't know, he seems very chill and like relaxed, and I just feel like that reminds me. Like, I know it's a picture of him, but like when I look at that, like I feel like it's something he would like. Like, I haven't showed it to him yet, but
Okay.
yeah, but I do think that maybe it's like missing something. Like I could add something to it, but I don't know. Like at the moment, I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard because I feel like a lot of times, especially when you do very minimal designs, everything is speaking. I mean, inherent in design, everything is speaking recursively back to itself. So like this is balanced because you have this big black silhouette down here, and you have this tinier type up there. This makes sense visually. This feels a little off balance, but maybe
Yeah.
it's playing to the vertical composition. You know, I mean, you could also just make it bigger, or put it in the middle, or flip it, or whatever. These are different choices. But when it's such a stark minimal design, last week we talked about minimalism and austerity being tied to status, modernity, and at certain levels of aspiration. But strangely, I do not get that from this. Does anybody agree or disagree with me?
Modernity.
Mm-hmm. And modern as sort of a concept, not necessarily as a time period. Modern, clean. Nobody agrees or disagrees. That's okay. Maybe it's too out there.
I'm not offended at all. You ask me to anything you
Yeah,
want.
no. This is what we're having a critique.
Yeah.
So like it's the point is to like talk about the
Yeah.
Is that salmon? That looks really good. I'm hungry. It's good. Good for you. No, you don't need to apologize. I think, and the reason I think that is, the reason that, and this ties back to what we were talking about last week with branding and everything, the reason I think I don't get that feeling from it is twofold. It's not the sans serif title font. That indeed is very modern, austere, all these things. It's a silhouette. That puts a very human factor to it. It's not super clean. Okay? And then this, with this typeface. It's stenciled, it's dirty, it's rusty, it's street art, it's spray paint, it's graffiti. It is everything that other aesthetic is not. Okay, and therefore it takes on a very different term. I would associate that more with some sort of like streetwear brand or street lifestyle kind of brand. Solely because of that. I mean, there's not too much to go off of. There's really only 3 visual elements here. Does anybody agree, disagree with that? See a little bit of head shaking, at least. Head shaking, head nodding. Well, good. I think this is great. I think you should be very happy with this. If I were to do something to it, I would be just talk to him and like maybe have him define what his brand is, or what he perceives to be his brand. Maybe hopefully after this workshop you can help him in that conversation.
So you think this is good enough for me to show it to him and like?
Well, you said he's a good friend of yours, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not like he's gonna be like, I paid you $40,000 for a business card.
This is for free.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
not,
Exactly. Well, I mean, I think when people don't pay you, then it's sort of a collaborative process,
Okay.
right? I would say it depends on his brand. If he says to you, I would say the adjectives that I would describe to this brand would be simple, austere, street. This doesn't feel like a luxury brand. It feels like an accessible, and I feel in some way that minimalism, because of that feeling of street lifestyle, goes more towards what's what I'm looking for, amateur, or DIY. It reminds me of like stickers you see in bathrooms and bars, where it's obvious somebody just went black and white because it's the cheapest printing thing and he designed it himself real quick, and that's fine, but that does speak to him. Anyway, all right, let's go on to the next person. Who wants to be next? All right, so Bruno, here are 2 album art images. Let me make this one a little bit smaller so you can kind of see them on the same scale. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of all this stuff in the background as much as possible. You too. You're out of here. Okay. Is this fair? You don't mind if there's like a little bit on the bottom, right? That's okay? All right, so here we have 2 representations of a brand from 2 we now know. The surprise has been ruined. Album covers. It's fine. I'm joking. What do these images, and Bruno doesn't say anything, what do these images say to you, everyone? Speak to me with dulcet tones. Magic. Okay, I love that. Anybody else?
I was just gonna say, like artistic vision. Like
Okay.
it's definitely not just a photo. There's been a lot of work done to make it look a certain way.
And I would say the use of rainbow colors and sort of like these shadow after effects bring to mind also literal visions, whether natural or perhaps induced. Expression and expressionism, certainly. Emotion, freedom, magic, as we said. Anything else? I'll tell you what I see. I'll tell you what I get out of this a lot. Street art.
Yeah, Banksy vibes off the second one for sure with the figure.
But then there's sort of like strange digital, almost like not quite glitch art, but almost there. Also reminiscent somehow of psychedelic. Rainbow colors is always part of that. Down here we have these complementary colors. Blue with this streak of fire and then ice coming across. This sort of angelic female figure in triplicate in almost primary colors. That sort of divine, magical. Bammy, presumably that's the name of the artist or something. I'm seeing the second B and the second album cover, so I'm going to draw that in front. Or something like this. This strangely disjointed tree trunks and this sort of artificially created sun in the upper left corner speak to me a lot of dynamism, life, in the chaos of both that digital, like multicolored sort of effulgence with all the trailing at the bottom, and against the sort of like black and white, perhaps more gritty urban photograph behind. And I think I see wind chimes up there at the top, perhaps hanging off some unseen branch and or balcony.
There's also inverted mat.
see that. Look
South
at that.
America.
Purple map of South America. Oh, there's several wind chimes. Okay, so this is like very expressionistic personal work. I mean, obviously it is something artistic, creative. Does anybody else have something else they'd like to say? I'm going to go ahead and guess that this artist has something to do with street culture. Maybe it's like a spoken word, rap, hip hop. And if we're all done, why don't you tell us? Were we right or were we wrong?
No, I just wanted to hear like what I just made these. The one on the right I made and I never used it. It's for my own like music.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Would you say stylistically I was all close?
yeah, I was trying to get. My aim was always to be like dark, mysterious, colorful. Those three things.
Mm-hmm.
The first one I tried to make it. It's like a collage, but then I like blended it and messed around with it.
Added some transparency layer into play.
Yeah. And then the second one I tried to go more simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on the left.
Yeah.
But tried to get more dark, and I used that one. Yeah.
I like it. It's cool. I mean, to me, the inherent visual narrative here, although it might just be an object of pure expression, suspended figure falling, rising, we're not sure. Not sure if that arm is out in aspiration or is a plea for help. And it's a woman. It's interesting.
I'm a Gemini, so I like split it into three, so it's like two personalities type thing.
3 personalities. I see what you're saying, yes. Blue and red. Cool.
I don't know which one is like more appealing.
I think I like the one on the left. Compositionally speaking, it's more pleasing to the eye. I think that with the one on the right, this is purely aesthetically, not branding. I would say that it's unbalanced, which, if it's intentional, is great. But all of the color and action and visual complexity, even though there's a lot in that white L shape coming around the corner here, I would say that this is a lot.
Yeah.
And that very much drives that, and you have the sun over here, so I'm like sort of seeing this as like a source, and the stuff's coming down, dying off here, trickling over into this world down here. But it's a little unbalanced. You need to have something bigger and brighter down here to counterweigh all that, I think. But that's just speaking about pure design, not branding per se, or narrative. All right, who wants to go next? Let's see what we got next. Is that right? Does that help you?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's see what we got in the old inbox. Are you here? Which one?
Yeah, this one.
It needs digital portfolio link.
Yes, this one. Simple digital portfolio.
Oh wait, what is this document? That's just a link? Okay, got it. Same thing. Here we go, Google Docs. At some point. Hey! Hold on, what about, I've got the wrong one there. I have too many email addresses, as you can see. And the internet is slow, which really makes things better. There you go. Let's make this full screen. Okay, got it. Okay, so I don't know how to do this full screen. Can I, or can I just scroll? I'll just scroll, yeah? Okay, so here we go. Let's slide through this and see what we can do. So let's give it a chance to go through it. Welcome to my digital portfolio. Pre-master student, University of California, graduate communication management. I like photography, art design, Savage Steel Club, where I was a university student. Photo shoot videos, bag activities, distribute public film, which is very popular online. Come from Shanghai, China. Yeah, that looks good. I'm really hungry. Shanghai's people have a sweet tooth. I didn't know that. 60 baked cake. Now, am I not getting an image here that I should be getting?
This is our business card.
Okay. Do we need to see that? Is that relevant? We can start talking about all this. I would say that. Whoops. Okay, no, don't want to mess with that. What are we getting from this? This is very simple. Obviously, it's we're working on it as we go. But like, what are we getting from this? A pure white page. And I guess what we're going to have to do is kind of ignore all this Google stuff on the side. Maybe I can get rid of my taskbar here. That helped a little bit, right? Go ahead, just speak up.
I'm almost wondering what it would be like if it was inverted, so it was black background and white text.
In terms of like just design wise,
Oh,
I mean that works. I will say that Alhambra. There is research which says that supposedly large bodies of text, it's not a good idea to put white text over black or like inverse. It's like harder to read, but it's really good for titling and minimal amounts of reading. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not making a statement. I'm just letting you know that's what I've heard. But I agree with you that this might also equate itself to or be. But I don't know if that would change anything. I feel like this is like pretty light, both in terms not only of color contact, in terms of color and composition, but also just like there's not a lot to go off of because you have a few images that are laid out on a grid, and we have a couple images here of China which speak to your story. I mean, does this have a logo or something?
Yes, I sent it to you.
You sent it to me. All right, let's take a look at that. Now I got rid of my taskbar. I don't know if I can bring it back. All right, let's see. We're going to reload. So far, what I'm getting from that is kind of the same stuff that we've seen a couple times today, which is light. Where did it go? That's not it. That's not it. I think it's a different thing entirely, maybe. Here it is. Is this not? I'm going to try reloading this. It hasn't come through yet. But it will. For now, we can look at this. I wonder if there's a way to get rid of this. And it doesn't matter. Do we get anything from this? And it's okay if the answer is I don't have enough to go off of. What, if anything, do we get? Go ahead.
I think you get a lot of like biographic information. If anything, this isn't a bad thing. For a website, I could argue that it's a bit too much, but if its purpose is just to be like a digital CD or a portfolio, it's more interactive than a paper copy, then totally fair enough. But in terms of having everything on one page, there's a bit about website owner, but then there's also a bit about Shanghai and then a bit about food culture, and it's all seems to be a bit too much on one page. However, if that was the intention, then
Well, yeah, of course, and you don't need to provide caveats. It's fine. This is a constructive space. I would say that this is an about me page. Maybe if we go to these other pages, can I click on these? Will these take me somewhere?
Just the homework.
Just which one? Handout?
Just the homework.
No. Okay, these are still like in process, like a website template or something. Okay. Well, I mean, at this point, I would say that I think that's a point well taken. I think for about me page, it works very well because it says a lot about you. There's not. I don't know. Like. Also, I mean, it's kind of hard because we are talking about you because the page is about you. Here we go. Let me see if I got it yet, because that's specifically a piece of branding, as opposed to this, which is kind of about me. And I get the colors, and I see this all intentional. But let's see if I can. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Did it come yet? Do you have what kind of viewport or what kind of connections do you have on the side of your MacBook? Because it might be faster to just plug it in here. Oh no, here it came through. In my updates. Thank you for the update. And there it is. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay. So here is the business card. So this is, as opposed to the last page that we saw in just branding, so let's talk about this one. What, if anything, does this tell us? Go ahead, Ben.
I think of youth only because it looks like a child's hand and it's very colorful.
Mm-hmm. The finger paint, yeah, that definitely is connotative of youth. You have that simple white black and white, except for that one hand, which I'm guessing is at the very least representational of her hand, individuals. Communication management, MS candidate. Email, contact information. Not quite justified, right? It's a little too high. I mean, I would feel like if it was a little bit lower to offset, this is just design-wise offset the height and the visual complexity of the upper right-hand corner. This text should be brought down, I think, to justify that compositionally, but that's just an aesthetic thing. Maybe that's intentional, I don't know. I mean, it's not. There's nothing to make you think that it is. So I would say at this point, communication management, we got the colorful hand, it gives me some idea of youth, perhaps individuality, the handprint, right? A sort of universal mark. Simple graphic lines, and the quilted pattern at the back, which is to me sort of like homesy and delicate. Anything else?
I like how the circle encasing the handprint is slightly off.
So you get that off to the side, okay.
Yeah, it gives it I don't know, gives it a more creative feel. Perhaps I'm not sure if that's the right word, but
I think it gives it a creative feel in as much as like a template is creative.
yeah.
Because it kind of feels like that. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I feel like there's a little bit of, I feel like the most unique things about it are this dot background at the back, and that may or may not be something in there, but it works in conveying the information, it works in providing, I like that the color versus the black and white. Why don't you tell us about it? What intentionality, if any, went into this, and tell us what that is? Like, what was the aim, the goal with the crack?
I show the basic or personal information.
Mhm.
Some like creative intentions.
Sure. And where does it source of this handprint image? Or like why the handprint? That's just to do the creative aspect, the creative element of it?
Yes, just structure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. And you don't have to make it. I'm just curious. Okay. Well, I mean, I think in that capacity, it succeeds. As part of a personal brand, and I don't know if you've kind of thought about what you want your brand to become, or if it's personal as a product, this is a place to start, right? Building from here in terms of, because obviously it has to work, has to serve its purpose as a business card. It has to give people the ability to get in touch with you, right? But I think the thing is, it's really hard to just make one isolated piece outside of a story. Do you have a more robust sort of brand story that you're trying to bring about with this, or is it just sort of an isolated piece of stuff that you've done? An isolated thing? Yeah. Well, I think that if and when you need to grow that narrative, that will feed into itself recursively. And you'll be able then to sort of branch out and figure out what to do that. And that will, in and of itself, open up pathways, visually speaking. Did that help at all? A little bit? All right. Who's next? One of you two more victims. Who wants to step up to the chopping block?
My thing is not like a personal branding thing though.
What's that?
My thing is like not a personal branding.
That's okay. Doesn't have to be. How do we find it? Where do we see it?
It's on my computer.
Can you email it to me? Is it emailable or USB-able?
No, it should be.
And you put yours on this for me, right, miss?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, hold on. It might take me a minute. I think you're expecting too much of me. Let's see if this thing pops up. What have you guys? Is it like an image file? Is it a website?
I actually have an Instagram account that's all about like not really just ice cream, but like just
I love it already.
yeah.
Okay, I see here you have a logo.
They're just graph or like an icon for that, but yeah, just
All
like
about
using
it.
a random image of it. But
Okay, don't tell us too much. Don't tell us too much. None of these are final. So before we look at that one, we look at this mood board, and maybe we can try and look at all this stuff, in preview, and we can kind of get an idea for what this. This is a mood board for the same brand. This is an Instagram account for about ice cream, something like this. We've drawn this. Okay, so this isn't quite a mood board. I don't know of any way to sort of scatter plot these, so I'm just going to kind of go through them. I hope you guys don't mind. Okay, so we have an atom, the atomic age, rockets, children playing, monochromatic, a cup of coffee, an aspirational cup of coffee. That's like a cafe, Earth Cafe cup of coffee. In a nice glass and a nice setting. A winter wonderland, cold. More winter, very beautiful. More winter with Inuits and caribou, or reindeer, I guess, since they've been domesticated. I don't know, do they domesticate them? Maybe, I don't know. One of those two animals. Okay, a sort of frozen mountain fantasy scape. The real life equivalent of that, some sort of epic glacier. Very cute anime kids. More cute anime kids product. Aggressively cute anime. Okay, a beautiful lake on a quiet sound somewhere in the distant north or out on the frozen tundra. Hopefully they have a lot of peppermint schnapps. Okay, when we look at all these things next to each other, what, if anything, can we derive? I'm going to put these into I'm going to just open up the folder, and that way we can do like a view of it, right? Oh wait, that's not it. What's this? That's not perfect, but whatever, it's something. When we see all these next to each other, even in a very rudimentary way, what, if anything, can we conclude? What are we going for here? Go ahead.
I thought it was very interesting that there's a lot of winter landscapes here. I think she said ice cream, right?
Yeah.
And
Thank
in
you.
my mind, ice cream is summer.
Ice cream is summer?
Yeah, it's
Ooh,
a
interesting.
summer treat, but I definitely can see the winter thing as well.
Maybe it's an envoy of winter. We're a little ruined because we know that it's ice cream, but I totally get that. Anybody else?
I was gonna say I kind of see how the landscape shots, the coffee, and even the children work together. However, I wasn't sure how the atomic logo thing and the anime characters played into the wider narrative of this kind of.
I would say here's my pitch, because I also, my ears sort of like perked up at the atomic imagery, the molecule, the atom, the symbol of the atomic age and nuclear fears. I think that it's sort of like a deeply invested American, sort of acculturated idea. Sputnik. I don't know really how the atom plays out. I feel maybe like energy. I see finally they're energetic, might be keying me off, but I feel like this powerful atomic, maybe sci-fi-y, sort of sciencey, something like this, playing into it. Laser beams and spaceships and satellites and all that, and all those other tropes, visual tropes of the atomic age, including thermonuclear destruction, I suppose. And then the little kawaii, cute, chibi anime characters that just take a sort of like marketing ploy, something for children, something fun. You see the other kids up there. Go ahead.
It's funny because I see the nuclear thing as like gentle and like cartoon, almost like the TV show The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, like I saw it.
I never
as,
watched
like,
it.
Like I didn't see it as like destructive. I saw it as like a gentler
There
version.
you go.
of
You can deduce what you will of our personal life narratives. Go ahead.
I took the atomic symbol as a lot of ice cream makers are getting into chemistry, and I think it's nitrogen.
Those
Yeah.
frozen nitrogen shops.
Yeah. So that's what I took
Fucking
of it.
But it's good. Hey, they sell Moo's ice cream. Okay, I see what you're saying. Certainly, I think I've been to one of those in Santa Monica or something where they pour the frozen liquid nitrogen over and all this big cloud. It was It's like this ice cream's really shitty, but what a show. Overpriced and not good, but what a show. I worked on a commercial for one of those shops in Beverly Hills, right off Rodeo Drive. It was very impressive. It looks good on camera. Anyway, okay, so anybody else got anything else for this potential brand narrative? I like that this is also for a specific product or company, because it's easier to do something that's outside yourself, so it's very difficult. Right? Do something personal. Anybody else? Why don't we ask Kurt? What do you think? Tell us. Are we off? Are we wrong? Are we way out in the bushes?
Yeah, basically because
Basically.
it's not very like a brand that I really don't know because I don't have a very clear like style of it, but it's kind of like contrasting, not very contrasting, like kind of a little bit that it's not very like the Kobe, it's not very hipster, but it's a little bit more like down to earth, like kind of a little bit between like the hipster and nerd, like the anime is something.
Hence the atom.
Yeah.
That's where the atom comes from. Sciencey, nerdy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I think somebody said sciencey or something like that, but nobody hit nerdy. But that's okay. That's okay. I mean, this is just a mood board, so it's not brand. It's sort of we're talking about what this brings to mind. I feel like a nerd. Picture of just a nerd. But there was something else you sent me too, right? It's on this USB drive. Oh, and it's potential logos.
yes.
So there's a lot here. So why don't you tell me which one I
They
should
all
pick?
look like very similar.
Yeah, I know, but which one? Which number?
Maybe 1 or 6 is like
1 or 6? Well, which one? Let's see. That's 1.
this is the original one.
And that's 6.
I just learned Photoshop like
Oh, sure.
so
We have some. Okay. Well, why don't we do? Is this like?
with the word, but yeah, I don't really think.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna pick one arbitrarily because I feel like that's not a lot for us to go off of. So let's do something with text because I think that'd be.
Oh, yeah.
And do tofu all about ice,
Yeah.
or just or I guess one of these two. Do you want this one or that one?
I think like if for Instagram I would take this one.
This one. Okay. Let's do that one then.
Just I don't know.
Don't worry about it. You don't have to know anything. It's okay. We're all here to learn and talk about it. Okay, tofu all about ice. So this is like a potential Instagram post, something for a brand. What, if anything, and we already know that we're talking about ice cream. This is an ice cream brand.
Wait, is the ice cream brand called tofu?
No, it's not really like because just ice cream, but like anything that is ice cold, like not really
Oh,
such.
okay.
So yeah,
Oh, okay. Well, that's very different then,
So
isn't it?
tofu is the name of the brand though?
the tofu, yeah, actually is the fruit underneath.
All about ice, and this is just very cold tofu,
Yeah.
perhaps.
It's the form is like kind of being curd of the tofu, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's tofu ice cream.
yeah.
Okay, got it.
Okay, good. Now that's that's good contextual information. That's a good question. Thank you for asking that. Okay, so now that we know the brand's all about ice, the other stuff kind of makes sense. I mean, well, obviously, then in that case, I mean, we already kind of know what this is about. But what, if anything, does this image tell us? I mean, it's not a terribly informative image, but now that we know something about it, right? I would start by saying that the blue works for you. The typeface, I think, I would choose something that's more set for a title and or stylized. We can do sort of styles. I get this sort of like storybooky, kind of old time, like serif font. But if you don't have, I mean, that's part of defining the brand, like what you want that story to be. I feel like a more modern sans serif font might work for you, but I don't know if you're going for like a storybook fantasy feel, everything about ice, and have a bunch of frozen castles and frozen hotels and frozen waffles and frozen tofu and who knows what else. It depends upon what narrative you want to say. Right? I think if you're going for fantasy storybook, I would maybe even go more stylized than this with the title font. I mean, if you just want to talk about cold things, maybe sans serif. Anybody else got anything for it?
There's something almost gentle about the branding, like the colors are muted, both in the
Yeah.
title and in the image.
Yeah, and then also it's a white porcelain bowl full of white shapeless goo. one of the most inoffensive things you can imagine. And presumably good tasting goo,
Yeah.
right? I have not heard of this. What is this product called? This is called frozen tofu?
It's called, I don't know the English name of it because there's a lot taken in Hong Kong, so but I guess it's called bean curd.
Bean curd, just bean curd.
Yeah.
Is what they call it, okay. Well, frozen bean curd here, we probably find it under frozen bean curd, frozen bean custard, or something like this. I'm sure we'll be able to see it at some point. Anything else working for her? Anything working against her in this potential Instagram account about frozen delights or terrors, perhaps as well? Go ahead.
I mean, not that I know anything, but
You do.
instead of like just as she was saying, it's very like it seems the colors are very
big part of the motivation here was to make it somewhat transparent, as though to emulate ice, like lake ice or something that's blue and sort of, translucent. And I think there's other ways of doing that might be better. Maybe a more sturdy sort of title face could carry that transparency better and still maintain the visual weight to be a title. But right now it's kind of sort of drifting away. It kind of looks like it's on a pane of glass that's in front of us and that. But even that effect could be, I think, accomplished more effectively. I think it all comes down to the story. If you have a story, maybe you don't have one yet. That's okay. You're working on that. But once you do have a story, and you say, I don't know if this is just about everything that's cold, right? Okay, so if you want to do things that are cold, then start saying like, well, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that sound like? What is that story about coldness? What is it about coldness that I'm talking about? Is it, these are just things you think about. And I'm just saying this is a conversation about branding. So, it's about visual language. It's, as we said earlier, visual symbology, semiotics. And then that might also be cultural too. Like in Hong Kong, that might be a very different thing than it is here. Yeah. Because I'm operating in Los Angeles, California, and so, but maybe in Hong Kong, that typeface and those colors mean something very different. And I can't speak that. Okay, well, maybe not. I don't know. I'm assuming. Yeah, man. Take care. Thanks for sharing. Anyways, that help? Yep. All right. And now let's go on to.
Mine's kind of like Instagrammy as well. So like, it's not a personal brand.
That's
it
okay.
Started off as being like something that I wanted to do on Instagram.
Because didn't you have a product? You have a line or something. What is it?
Oh yeah, I've got like a fitness
gear, right? Fitness stuff.
Yeah. But
is that what?
Back in London.
That's back in London.
So
Okay.
I can't really do much.
Okay, got it.
But this thing, I wanted to do like a vlog.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a YouTube thing whereby like I did videos weekly, like covering like certain like topics to do
Sure.
like feminism or whatever. But then I realised like I'm actually not that confident to like make my own videos.
Okay.
As in like I don't know if I'd feel comfortable like posting.
Oh, you
videos
should be confident because there's a lot of idiots that do it.
I know, but like I don't know if I wanted to. So then I kind of figured that I wanted to make a page that just put together a load of different videos.
Okay.
So like basically posting 1 minute long videos of like young people talking about either things that interest them or like current affairs or like the arts or something, just to like showcase like young talent and like.
Okay, so basically like a broker for
so like
almost like a news source, a lifestyle
like,
resource.
Kind of like a miniature TED Talk page.
Sure. Okay.
But like for young people.
What do you mean? Why do you gesture at me when?
No, just because if you get the logo, like, you'll understand.
Yeah. What should I? Did you email me something?
I emailed it to you.
Okay. Miss Chapman?
Yeah, that's me.
There's a lot of Christies and Katies and Catherines. Come on, give me a break. All right, here we go.
So,
Oh, I love this already.
wait,
Wait, don't tell us anymore. Don't tell us
okay,
anymore.
okay.
Okay, so Miss Chapman just divulged some of the secrets, but let's talk about this image now, and then you can finish your story because of it. Let me make this bigger here. I would say this might be okay. This is not super high res, so I'm going.
This is just a screenshot of something I made on Pages, so it's like.
That's all right. Let's see if we can. If I do this, well, at the very least, that's okay. That's pretty good. We don't lose too much after the projection. So, dumb kids of Instagram. What is the story? What, if anything, do we get from this? Go ahead. You got something to say? Say it.
Kind of looks like a funny parody of like rich kids of Instagram.
Yes, I immediately went to that as well. And other kids of Instagram.
Yeah.
Dumb kids. I might say that this and rich kids are fairly interchangeable in terms of title. But anyway, that's another conversation. Anything else?
Playful because of the bubble.
Sure.
Just in case.
And the title itself.
Yeah.
Dumb kids. Yeah. I would say that. This is very minimal. This is just like a little logo. What I can infer from the title is obviously very playful, fun. I really love that sort of old-time open-close sign typeface. It's a great title. I like to play between that and the Mission, I believe is the name of that typeface.
Yeah, I got it from one of the websites.
The Lost Type. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
Both of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
both great typefaces. I would say that I think the line weight of the thought bubble, which is what it appears to be to me, as opposed to like a splat or a cloud, it seems to be like a thought bubble.
Yeah, because I want it to be like thought-provoking page, like.
Now, but to that though, because I mean the cat's kind of out of the bag in terms of the. Oh, I have to back up this file. Hold on. Stop trying to help me, technology. Not now. You fool. In the middle of a talk. I will say that I think the line weight of this thought bubble is overpowering the typeface.
Yeah.
I think that either you need to find a smaller thought bubble, create a thinner thought bubble, or make the typeface bigger.
I couldn't find like the perfect.
But you can create one too.
Yeah, I know. I got these. Literally, this was like from Google Images.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's okay. As sort of like a sort of proto thought
Yeah.
bubble. It's great. Yeah, I really like the interplay between the two types of typefaces. I think that the line's a little thick, but you can fix that. You see that. I will say that the brand for this, if I just saw this logo without knowing anything about it behind other than what little you told me, I will say that it seems like a joke site or something like drunk people doing things.
Yeah.
Or something like this, a collection of Instagrams and videos of people doing stupid things.
I think that was the thing, like, because like a lot of people assume that's what kids do on Instagram. So I wanted to.
I mean, it is what they do on
Yeah, I
Instagram.
wanted it to be a bit like satirical, whereby
Yeah.
it's actually the opposite of that. It's like kids doing like really clever things on Instagram. So-
Really clever things. Now, everybody should know that clever means something slightly different in Britain than it does in the United States.
not like mischievous or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like kind of.
There's that connotation in the States.
Yeah.
Clever just means actually like clever.
Yeah, like
Smart.
bright things.
Smart, bright,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that would be fun. I think that it will be unexpected.
Yeah.
But I don't think it will be ineffective per se.
Okay.
That's my two bets. Another British term.
Mhm.
Does that help you?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Do you want to talk to us about anything? Did you throw us something?
No.
Do you want to?
I just kind of have
No.
a question.
Yeah, do it.
So since I'm not necessarily a creative type, nor do I really want to go into the creative stuff. So
Well, excuse
how-
me.
Like, how can I utilize this for my professional development? Say, well, I don't know. I guess I read something somewhere that says that it's kind of recommended that you have like a website nowadays, but I don't really have anything to put on there because I don't make movies, I don't make games, I don't make art. So
Wait, now you told me that you had been working in film in the business side of things. Now, we had a question like this from somebody last week, which was, what do I brand? Like there was a young lady here who I think she described herself as she was a craft beer brewer and something else.
Diplomat, future diplomat.
Yeah, she was a future diplomat. She was she was an IR student and a craft beer brewer. And I was like, well, I mean, if you want to grow any of those things, I suppose diplomats have non-state mandated web pages where they can have their lives on there, and or your craft brewing. If you want to make a hobby of that would be a product or a brand that you want to build.
okay.
I think that in terms of somebody who is a explicitly outspoken non-creative, you're kind of boxing yourself in. I don't know if I believe that entirely, but I will say that the skills and ideas behind branding, behind visual communication, visual narrative, can be very useful to you, even if you work in a completely non-visual capacity. Because it's important not only to be able to use that for work in your brand, it's also be able to read that language.
Right. Well, that's why I want to know how I can utilize that. Like, what sort of ways can I know I can spruce up my LinkedIn, but like,
Pictures.
like, what can I do for like a website? Again, I don't really create content. I'm not really a photographer, nor do I really want to brand.
Well, I mean, it's
myself.
kind of like you're asking me like, what? I mean, that's kind of a tough question. Like, how can you use this for a website? I mean, inherently, if you make a website, I mean, you think your statement, well, you know, I hear that everybody needs a website nowadays. If you don't need a website, you don't need a website. You know what I mean? There's nobody saying like you gotta have an Instagram portfolio just because every motherfucker with an iPhone thinks that they're a photographer now. You know what I mean? Doesn't make them one. They still have websites. But if you're not interested in doing that, then don't do it. If maybe you want to have a website, maybe if you have a hobby or something that you do when you're not just like working on business stuff. Maybe you like growing tomatoes. That's your thing.
What would you work as then? Well, like, what was your career interest?
Well, I guess. I mean, I work in like entertainment and film. I don't work in entertainment and film. I'm still a student, but I'm in film school. And so, kind of what I want to go about doing is talent representation. And that's kind of like a, I don't want to say hush.
You want to go work for
but it's
CSA and all these other huge
um,
CAA.
Yeah.
but it's kind of like, it's just very like internal. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not like, here's who I am, like outwards, and people just know each other, and that's how you get hired.
Well, I mean, it might not be. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, most people actually don't really need one then.
Yeah.
Like I don't have my own website because I'm just like I'd rather have my LinkedIn and like
Yeah, totally.
get a job like and maybe if one day if you build up enough like of a portfolio with who you've worked with and stuff, then
Yeah.
you can put it all on a website. I don't think I know how that works.
But I do think that it's still an important skill set for you at the very least to be aware of.
Oh, yeah,
Because I think
totally.
that even if you work, let's say you go work for like CAA and you get this, you go up there in that big building in Brentwood or Century City or wherever it is, and I mean your role will be very confined aesthetically because you become a part of that machine, and that's fine. But depending on what capacity you serve in there, you may have insight or feedback on some other person's brand. You know. And I'm sure there are people, depending on what level you're at, I know the way that industry works is you just start way down and have to a long and arduous crawl to the top. So I mean, you might be very confined aesthetically, but they might have an outpouring or might have an impact on your life in your personal life. If there's something you want to do creatively down the road, maybe you don't, and that's fine. But it's the skill set that exists. It's like if I walked into I don't even know what would it be.
So, if I were to utilize, I'm not entirely sure what even are like the tools of branding. Like what kind of, like what's the software? I wasn't here last week,
Software.
so like what's the stuff that I'm supposed to be
Well, I
using?
think last week, and I think
What
if
is it just website building, business cards? Like I don't entirely know.
that's a very, it's a little bit broader than that.
Okay.
And I think, and you guys just so you know, we're done with all that stuff. If you guys want to bounce, you can. I'd love to stay for another 20 minutes, keep talking because I love the sound of my own voice. So you guys are welcome to come and be part of this discussion where we talk about branding, perhaps on a more abstract level. But you don't have to be. So you are free to go if you'd like. You are free to stay and chat with me. And what was your name again? Allison. About the abstractions of branding. So last week, I'm just going to pull this up because I feel like we've accomplished everything that I needed to accomplish in the class and or wanted to accomplish. Now I wanted to get down to the fun stuff, which is basically just like having a conversation. Last week in my presentation that I threw up here, I mean, there is software. Software is like, you can use the Creative Cloud, and because USC has an agreement with Adobe, we, push the Creative Cloud. Also, it's pretty robust software. I've used it my entire professional life. But what I was talking about mostly last week, and I think kind of like what the truth is behind branding, it's not so much like, well, I got the branding program, I got branding, 16.0, now I can brand. Like, it's not really like that, like it's more about the story behind the brand. And so like something that we talked about last week was like you pick a brand and let's talk about the story. So pick a brand, a popular brand that everybody knows. McDonald's. Okay, let's talk about McDonald's. What's the story of McDonald's? Golden Arches, certainly, that's part of it. But the Golden Arches is representative of something else. Golden Arches at this point are iconic. The Golden Arches aren't about Golden Arches. The Golden Arches is about the brand McDonald's. And what does that brand say? What does that brand mean? Let's go to their website. Let's see how they self-define. And if you have something to say about it, please do. All American Beef. That sounds like a great gay porn. Let's see. McDonald's. It's McDonald's.com. I've never been to McDonald's website. I have no idea what is awaiting me
No,
here.
it was a website.
Let's see what it comes up with. Okay, so this is how they present themselves. And does anybody have anything to say about what they perceive the brand story to be of McDonald's? I mean, also McDonald's is such a huge and well-storied American company. Like, it's very difficult for it to not be a bunch of different things. But in generally, here's what I would say McDonald's is. I would say from my perception of McDonald's and their brand story, their branding, their advertising, their pop-up email list requests, and wanting to know my location. Nope. McDonald's is actually a great example of a brand which doesn't really brand itself. It's vanilla, it's accessible, it's open to everyone, it's inoffensive, it's equal opportunity, it's for everyone by everyone all the time. Because that's their business model. They can't get specific. They don't want to get specific. Almost every brand is more specific, I would say, in terms of its branding than McDonald's. Starbucks is more specific, and Starbucks is one of those big universal brands. Because Starbucks still has a story. Starbucks isn't going to come out with Starbucks brand, cognac or something, because that's not part of the Starbucks story. But McDonald's probably would, or maybe wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe that's not part of the story. They're wholesome American, all American values, all storied company, all around the world now. And also, that's another thing. McDonald's being a multinational company that spans from China to here and all the way, everything in between, has to be a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And I bet you that their branding is fairly similar around the world. Inoffensive, accessible.
It's basically a mirror brand for what they know their audience in certain countries want to see.
Exactly. Well, I mean, a lot of brands are.
But especially McDonald's, I think, compared to, obviously.
God, I'm hungry.
I don't
Yes,
know, like just the different menu items even in different countries that you've never heard of, like.
You're free to get out of here.
Yeah.
Because I've got class.
Yeah, do it. Well, I'm just chatting because I'm having a good conversation. I have a captive audience to some degree until 7. Not if everybody leaves. Then I'll just talk to myself. Pick another brand. This is helping. You can kind of get what I'm saying in terms of what branding is. Pick another brand. You pick one.
Kylie Jenner.
Kylie Jenner. Okay.
She's a brand.
She's certainly a brand I know nothing about. So you guys are gonna have to tell me about this. Where should I go to see her brand? Her Instagram.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Another web page of the internet I have never been to. Google, eat your heart out.
I feel like you're denying it so much that you might have actually.
I'm a secret. Was that? Oh, it's because my last class they were blown up about the fact that one of the other Kardashians is pregnant.
No, it's Kylie.
Oh, is it Kylie?
Yeah.
Wasn't there another one like Cindy or Chloe? Somebody else got pregnant.
They're all.
They're all pregnant.
Someone announced
So,
in class.
Kylie Jenner, like that, right?
Yes.
Is that her?
Also, I think a point about the McDonald's thing is their brand is that you don't need isn't a website. Their brand doesn't require that because
Yeah.
the people that they're targeting aren't looking at their website.
Exactly, and then also one last thought on that is that they are one of those brands, which is what you might call like a tentpole, institutionalized, acculturated brand. They have been McDonald's for so long. It's like G&E. What's G&E's brand? Accessible, make stuff everywhere. Like what? Like what are you gonna like? Not really sure exactly what they do, but it's on my refrigerator. They're just kind of there. What's KitchenAid's brand? It's just so massive and it's been around for so long that it's sort of just become part of the landscape. But anyway, let's get to Kylie Jenner. So here we're going to see her brand, her narrative.
Does she have? Do you think she has publicists helping her with this stuff?
I can almost guarantee that she has a whole staff dedicated just to her Instagram account. And all the Kardashians probably do.
They have.
And as a talent representative, if somebody's going into this world, yeah. Oh, yeah. And they get paid a lot of money. She has people who Photoshop her pictures. She probably posts none of these. And she has a handler when she goes places, probably. If she doesn't, other people in this sort of league of like celebrity do.
I think it's really important if we scroll up.
Uh-huh.
The top, the one with the white shirt and the red lipstick,
Uh-huh.
as well as the one right in the middle, the kind of artsy
This one?
Those are old images. Sorry, I
No, that's fine.
Not
You
too
don't. You
much.
need not apologize.
Those are old images, and they're being released quite a lot after this pregnancy rumor, which only so far to this morning's news update, only
News.
Caitlyn Jenner has confirmed. So the rest of the family hasn't even confirmed it, including Kylie herself.
Yes, so it's important everybody remember that she's very sexy.
Yes,
That
remember,
she's the embodiment of
this is
young,
what I look
lustful
like.
femininity
So
with
there's
all the
definitely-
curves and everything.
Yeah, there's an attempt to stay
Gonna
relevant.
crush your freaking baby.
There you go.
If she was
The
five
comments
months
are
or
so funny.
You're gonna crush your.
And then
You're-
someone's
dead.
defending her saying, it's literally untied, you guys, is you blind? Except
Yep.
this is like a 5-month-old image and it doesn't
Wait,
even
what is
matter.
LB? What is FB?
Are you
Pounds?
asking, or are you
Yeah,
reading?
what is that?
It's like back and follow back.
So what does that mean?
It
Like
means if you
people
ever really-
wanting to have followers.
So So they will spam celebrity accounts that have more than like say 50 million followers with LBs and FBs because those are the kind of people that like if you go on say Andrea's Instagram account.
Which one is
basically
where
they
she?
use it as self-promotion. They ride the fame wave.
80 followers.
So yeah, so she's like, if you follow me, I'll follow you back. Or if you like a picture, for example, they'll write LB top row, as in if you like every 3 picture, like every one of the 3 pictures in my top row. Instagram's a weird place. I spend too much time on Instagram.
God, yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, it's good that you're fluent in that language. I will say, anyway, to get back to her brand, I will say that there's a lot of photos of her. She doesn't mind showing off her goods, if I may be so crass. She has, this is Snapchat, right? There she's showing off the goods again with Photoshop nipples. Well, because you asked specifically about it. Okay. Something with the baby, with a cleft palate. I'm humanitarian.
So
I
what's
do
her-
charity.
What's her brand though? Like something obsessed.
I mean, it depends where you're sitting. I would say that obviously there's this sort of cult of personality, but I think you have to understand that she, as a cultural icon, sad as that though may be, depending on your perspective, regardless, as a cultural icon personality, she and the leader of a cult of personality, she exists within like this double-shelled idea of herself. Because there is her that exists within like her brand and her Instagram and her direct affiliations with other people and her family and all of her very famous family and all that. And then there's almost like so much coming out of that and built off that. There's also pushback against that. Because people who say, who cares? I don't care. Or she's an idiot. Why? Because she's a pretty young girl, she's posting photos of her chest. Does that make her stupid? It doesn't make her stupid, it might make her very smart, who knows? We really don't know. We don't really know anything about her.
She's kind of referred to her brand and the kind of images she posts on Snapchat and Instagram. Scoff, if you will, don't know how genuine it is, but she said, I post what people want to see. Like, people want to see cars, okay, I'll post a car. Because people reply a lot, like, so they do it based on engagement. People want to see me in a bikini, I'll do that. But that's not really all of me. Like, that's only
Well, no, of course not. And that's the thing. And that speaks kind of to the point we were saying earlier. Like, because I'm not super familiar with her, I can just kind of what I know from like sort of cultural miasma that we're all floating in, and then also looking at this. I know that there is a woman behind the brand of Kylie Jenner there's a whole other world and aspect to her, but probably very few people get to know that or even can see it because the acculturated brand on her is like a mile deep. You know what I mean? You can't get close to her. You know, it's like trying to land on Jupiter. There's too much atmosphere. Only the people who know her, and are probably even at that point very close to her, maybe the family she grew up with, know her. When you have a TV show about your private life, that's not your private life. That's a TV show, right? Who knows what's actually going on? I'm sure they don't want you to know, because they want to have their own private lives. Or who knows, maybe they're warped and weird and totally different than you and me. I really have no way of knowing, because there's so much atmosphere between me and her. But to answer your question about what her brand is, I would say it's a young Hollywood starlet. The way that she portrays herself online, even if she says this is what people want to see, that's good. It's very self-aware. I'm glad to hear that. She is giving people what they want to see. Pictures of her tits, pictures of her ass, pictures of her beautiful face, insights into her awesome life. She seems like she's a product, like she's a self-styled product. A product of sort of idealized youth and sort of the allure of the male gaze, right? The ideal stereotypical heteronormative woman, perhaps.
I think her account also over the past few years, since I think I've followed her for like 2 or 3 years or something. I never actually watched the show, but Instagram. It's transformed from being a more personal account to a more branded account. I mean, you can always argue that even your personal account is branded, but
Yeah, sure.
the kind of things she now posts are constantly to do with, you must have seen like all these things. She's promoting her lip kits constantly. She does
Well,
the
of
same
course.
thing on Snapchat.
Yeah.
It's less about her now and more about the kind of products she gets paid for.
Of course. And then that happens too, is like, right, like people get paid, especially celebrities get paid to post things, they get paid to hashtag things, they get paid to mention things. But anyway, we have 10 minutes left. Let's talk about like one more brand besides Kylie Jenner. This is kind of a tough one to peg down because it's not really a brand, it's an individual, it's a narrative, it's a cultural narrative. You know, it's a cultural influencer, for better or for worse. Anybody else got anything else they want to talk about? Or we can just keep talking about Kylie, I guess, if you guys want to. Or why don't you ask me, because you were the one that was looking for like specific help.
Well, okay, so. Okay. I don't know. Okay, I get it. I mean, it's okay. Yep.
Okay, that was easy.
I don't really know what to ask.
That's okay. I mean, I think.
just like so it's branded is kind of like what you want to sell.
Why don't I give you a real quick rundown here? Like, what is branding? It's a story. And you can see some of my lecture notes here. Aspirational, intimidating, welcoming, subversive, told through design, intentionality. The story selling you an aspiration, promise a secret. Stories matter in life and marketing. The reason is simple. Great stories make people feel something and connects to them. Those emotions create powerful connections between the audience, the characters in the stories, and the storyteller. That's a lot of like very academic language to say that brands are something which inherently are used to define, and oftentimes in capitalistic society are used to sell. So CAA, let me go back to that example because that's the world you want to enter, the world you will be entering, has a brand, and it's monolithic, it's powerful, it's protective, it's insular, and it's defiant. And no, we don't want to sit with you. Wouldn't you say? Mm-hmm. Even if it's only acculturated, and if not inherently put out by them. Mm-hmm. And that's the story of a lot of those companies in Hollywood, because it makes sense for them to be that way. Because Hollywood, in and of itself, not as a place, but as a cultural institution, is just that. We're cool. We don't want you here. Don't worry about it. But you watch them on TV, and you do want to be there. And this is why North Hollywood is full of out-of-work actors. Right? And if you've ever been in North Hollywood, it's a very sad place. Desperation is rank in the air. But the story, and some of that might be acculturated, like I said. It might not be CAA putting that out there. But they also kind of are. Because I don't know how many agents you know. But they're not necessarily the most warm and welcoming people. At least some of the ones that I know kind of embrace that. They love that. It's like my friends who work in finance. Sort of a similar mindset. Mm-hmm. Well, we're up here.
So it's like, okay.
That's what I would define as a brand. It's a narrative, whether put out intentionally, usually it is, but not always. In terms of you asking me, like, well, I'm not creative and I don't make stuff, I work in talent representation. Like, what good is this for me? Well, it is very good because it helps you see how and why people perceive things the way they do in terms of brands, in terms of actors, because Kylie Jenner is not a product. Well, maybe she is, but she's not inherently. She's an individual, but she's still a brand, as you said. Mm-hmm. What does that brand say? What's that brand selling besides makeup? That brand is selling aspiration. That brand is selling lifestyle. That brand is selling status, success, Balenciaga, and Beamers. Oh, actually, nicer than Beamers. What's the next one up with a B from Britain? Bentley. Yeah. Aston Martins. All that jazz. That's what that brand's selling.